Hi there, CoronaTV viewers. I'm Johnny Damon.
You're my bobblehead Joel today, just nod up and down if you agree. Welcome to the show, Mitch Joel. How are you?
Happy birthday to you.
And just look at those washboard abs.
I know, right? Oh yeah, this is the fittest I've ever been in my life, you know.
Happy birthday from Johnny Damon.
First of all, let's just do the elbow bump. It is Thursday, May 21st. Welcome everybody to CoronaCocktails. This is not CoronaTV anymore. It is CoronaCocktails, and I have a very special guest, the Maestro, I'm calling him, because he is a maestro, Mr. Jay Baer. You know, when I do cocktails and I have someone like Jay who is an MC, who is used to MCing, I kind of feel like I shouldn't bring him on like later. I should bring him on sooner. So yeah, I'm just going to do that. Jay Baer, you're my co-host today.
Oh, fantastic. It's a great honor, Mr. Jaffe. It's always nice to be with you here on Corona Cocktails. Thanks for doing this too. It's a real service to the community. Oh,
you're very welcome. So considering you're my co-host, have you planned anything? Have you got an agenda? Do you have any slides?
I know you have slides that I will comment on, perhaps. I am sort of the second banana here. You can be the color commentator. I will be the
big banana.
Yes, the big banana. You'll be the play-by-play. I'll be the color guy. I'll be the John Madden in this scenario.
So if that's the case, then do you welcome yourself and say that you'll be the guest on today? Or
welcome,
I'll do that.
Jay Baer, inspirational plaid suit wearing, stay on brand, baby. Hall of Fame marketing and customer experience keynote speaker, MC, trusted advisor to the world's most iconic brands, founder of Convince and Convert, host of the Social Pros podcast and the Standing Ovation podcast. Great to be here, my friend.
That's impressive. What's even more impressive is that it is actually National Memo Day.
Is it?
So did you send a memo today?
I'm not even certain, and this is true. I'm not trying to be funny, and because I'm not being. What does memo mean now? Is it like a note? Is it? I mean, at one point it was a memograph, I think is the actual
memorandum,
word.
maybe.
Memorandum, yes. I don't know. Like, I guess back in the day when I was just a young pup in business, I remember getting memos. It would be on my desk, a piece of paper, and it would say at the top, memo. That's how you knew it was a memo. No, I don't. I've sent about 6,000 emails, but I don't think I've sent an actual memo today. So I feel like I have not celebrated.
And do you remember the inter-office memo? They would put a piece of paper in.
You'd initial it. You'd initial
in a manila envelope, and then they would like bind it. And
yes, because it's super important. Put the red string around it, and then you'd have to read it, initial it on the outside of the envelope, and then get up and walk to the next desk. That's not very good for social distancing. Let me touch it and pass it on.
And now nobody goes to work anymore. So
right, yeah, there you go. I wonder, how all these days, National, Marshmallow Peeps Day or whatever, everything else. So many of these days are marketing constructs. I wonder what tortured industry consortiums like, guys, what we need is National Memo Day. Like somebody had a meeting about this.
There's peach cobbler. There was a National Be a Millionaire Day yesterday, and so every day I kind of bring in. Sometimes it's sublime, sometimes it's ridiculous. Mostly it's ridiculous. So this is Mr. Jay Baer, and he's going to be my co-host. I decided to be on brand, so I'm just going to take him off for 1 second so you can see my background. Kind of. A little bit of a plug your haters as opposed to a hug your haters, and I'm even wearing a Jay Baer type of jacket. So that's how excited I am to see you. I have to ask you a question, but before I ask you a question, this is quite kind of funny, which is I was looking for some reason my email didn't get to you today, and so I decided to send you a Facebook message, and clearly we don't communicate regularly on Facebook, which is fine. I don't communicate regularly to anyone on Facebook. But I found out that the last text or message I sent you was in 2015, and it reads as follows: James Franco is sucking ass.
Oh, I remember that day. You didn't have to tell me the date. I remember that. I remember that event. I will not talk about the details because I'm working with that company right now on a new project. So I don't want to belabor that point if you don't mind. But I do remember
you will notice I didn't say what you said. I just said I said that to you.
I appreciate that. And you were correct. I've never seen anybody clear a ballroom in a non-fire situation like James Franco did that night.
I remember the one tweet. It was the best one. And I was there as an influencer. I think it was the first and last time I was ever invited as an influencer. You know, that taught them a lesson. And so I'm there, and I just saw this ballroom with maybe 3,500 people be reduced to 50 people. Pretty much just the influencers were left because we felt
based
bad.
on content.
Yeah, and then there was a tweet, the best tweet of the lot. It said, "How to clear a ballroom of 3,500 people in 30 minutes. Hashtag you've been Francoed." So anyway, we'll move on. But that was the last time
that on Facebook. But it's funny you say that. Just in general, you and I are same age approximately, and
we are
like at one level, things are better because there's all these different ways you can reach people and different communication modalities. But boy, isn't it interesting? Like, okay, so there's some people that you mostly communicate with on Facebook. There's other people that you mostly communicate with on Instagram. And there's other people that you mostly communicate with on text, and others via email, and others via phone, and others via TikTok or Smoke Signal or Snapchat. Like, not only do you have to remember who your contacts are and how you can be of use to them, but now you also have to play like contact mechanism roulette. And it's a little bit exhausting, I find.
It's exhausting, and sometimes you also don't. You kind of feel like, wait a second, I got a message from them, but I don't remember what platform it was. And then you heard the ding, but was it a ping, or was it a ding, or was it a dong, or was it a?
And you're like, access all of your notifications to see where it came from.
It seems like there could be a business opportunity to integrate, collate, and bring together messaging.
Well, Facebook's trying, right? If they tie together Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, which is their purported goal, and
which is pretty much everything,
and Messenger, obviously, then you kind of have a lot. You're in pretty good shape there. So we'll see.
Yeah, and the only thing that's missing is Microsoft Teams. But I mean, I haven't even started drinking yet, and I'm already being mean. So we're not going to do that. In fact, we haven't even started drinking.
My good friend Bob Barnum has asked us to start drinking, so I'm going to, even before we get to that part of the show. I don't care.
He also said we're wicked old. We're about the same age, aren't we?
We are. I think so. I was born in 1969,
and I was born in 1970. So I'm probably going to be celebrating my birthday in quarantine. So this is CoronaCocktails, and this is an ambertini. My daughter turned. Well, I better not say what age she turned, because let's just say that was a virgin drink. This was an ambertini. There was a little bit of vodka. There was a little bit of cranberry juice. There was a little bit of orange juice. There was a little bit of lime. I was having fun. But we're not drinking that, are we? What are we drinking tonight?
What are you drinking? You've got a fancy pants cocktail there.
Yeah, I'm going to just stick with what I've been having at every CoronaCocktails, which is my 1995 Glen Rothes. And I went for a 4.5 mile run on an empty, and I'm drinking on an empty stomach. So what could go wrong?
Nothing.
As I pour and as I toast to you and your health, and quite literally to your health.
Yeah.
What are you drinking? And let's say
I have more for hydration. I have a Bell's Two-Hearted Ale, which is regarded by some as the highest rated India Pale Ale in the country on REWIRE.com and other sites. But that's more just for secondary. My actual cocktail that I brought to the show is a authentic ancestral mezcal. They sell mezcal in the plastic water bottles when you get it from the distiller. This is from a Maestro mezcalia in San Miguel de Manero in Jalisco, actually signed by the maker. And this happens to be a Pachuga, which is a celebration mezcal, only made for holidays or special occasions. This one was actually made for Christmas Eve for his family over last Christmas. Pachuga means breast in Spanish, and it's called Pachuga because when they distill special celebration mezcals second time, they hang a breast in the still, in this case, a breast of a wild turkey, and then they put in the bottom of the still, in this case, wild strawberries and other wild fruits from that region of Mexico. It is delicious. And then classically, you drink mezcal out of these little bowls. This one happens to be glass. Many of them are made out of wood, but this one looks kind of fancy and is easy to clean. So drink that. So this tastes like a liquid campfire. This is like a liquid campfire in your mouth with a little bit of a strawberry and turkey flavor to it, which I know sounds probably terrible, but it is spectacular. I'm going to set that up, and I'm going to toast to you, Joseph Jaffe, and to all of you out there on Corona Cocktails. Cheers.
Cheers. Now, what did we learn from that? What we learned from that is Jay Baer is a fantastic storyteller. What we also learned is that he's a complete liar because it's nothing but water. I'm just kidding. It's not water, or maybe this is mezcal as well.
Maybe it's mezcal. Yes. Bob asks, how do you get that across the border? Great question. You are allowed to bring, it actually depends on whether you go across a land or an air border. I went across an air border last time I was there, and you are allowed to bring
2 bottles.
5.
Right?
No, it's 5. Mm-hmm. 5 of these. And you're fine. So 5 liters is the rule. It's actually interesting. It depends a little bit by state as well. So which state you fly into, it's a lot more complicated than you think. But yeah, it's definitely legal and delicious and fantastic. As many people know, I am a tequila mezcal aficionado. That is the same way that you are around the bourbons and the scotches and the related brown liquors. I'm that way about the agave spirits. Oh, John Jantz, Duct Tape Marketing is here. Mitch Jackson, go bear down. Mitch, I got to tell you about a big project I'm working on at U of A. We'll talk later.
You know what I love, and I said this, I think I said this with maybe it was Mark Schaefer or it was David Meerman Scott, which is when my guests completely take over the show and they start reading comments.
Well, you told me I was going to be the co-host, so I'm not just going to sit here passively.
I love it. What do you mean? I love it. So let's see. So John, I still owe you an email, whether you want to come on my show, whether you want me on your show. It's not a quid pro quo.
You guys can both come on my show and we'll just call it even.
All right, we got to do that. And I got a comment from Periscope, although it looks like the LinkedIn comments are still not working. But Jeremy Lieneberg said, celebrating your birthday in quarantine. That sounds interesting. Yeah. You know, here's what I will say. We've had, in my family, Mother's Day and my daughter's birthday. And I got to tell you that they were great. Both of them were great. Just the 5 of us, just my core family. It was quality time. You know, we didn't even have time to get cards for Mother's Day. We had to make do with what we had. We ordered some stuff on Amazon. It arrived late because of the virus. It's amazing how when we've had the opportunity, right, Jay? We, the human race, have tried to find that lemonade from the lemons. You know, make the lemonade from the lemons.
Look, man. Here's the thing. This is bad news for so many people. And we are comparatively so incredibly blessed and fortunate, as are many of our viewers here this evening. But it's also true that in every great calamity comes great innovation. It is the nature of the human spirit. And so there are going to be a tremendous number of people who invent new companies, who invent new products, who invent new circumstances, who ultimately turn this into a positive, at least for themselves and their loved ones, and that's interesting to see, and it always happens that way. In fact, do you know Ahava Leibtag? She's a terrific, brilliant content marketing strategist. Does almost exclusively work in healthcare. Does a lot of work for hospitals. Speaks at some of the content marketing conferences. Great. Her son, 13 years old, is an industrious young chap, taught himself how to use a 3D printer and make those, I guess they're called Corona hooks or something like that, the kind of hook-shaped device that you can then use to grab a door handle or touch a pin pad or hit an elevator button, so you don't have to actually touch it with your hand.
Yeah. I've seen them advertised. Yeah, exactly.
And so he's like, I'm just going to make that out of plastic or whatever using a 3D printer. So figured out how to do it. Started selling them. I bought 10 of them for friends and family. Kid figured it out from like, oh, this is a good idea, to I'm selling them in 5 days. You know, it's just,
and they kind of look like keys as well. They're quite brilliant, actually.
Yes,
because
it's great.
You can pull, you can push, you can turn.
Absolutely, right.
So what does the world come to that we even need that product? But you know,
Well,
So,
I mean, so many products, right? I mean, like friends of mine who own a distillery, and they're making, like so many others are. I mean, they're making hand sanitizer like it's going out of style, right? They're making thousands of gallons of hand sanitizer a week. Like that wasn't a business until recently.
and now it is. All right. So because you are my co-host, we're gonna go ahead and do some of the things that I normally do, which is wish happy birthday to everybody that's at home right now. If you recognize anyone on my Facebook friends, but some of them may be yours. We can say happy
Tim
birthday
Hayden,
to
of
them.
course, Joey Strawn. I haven't seen Joey in forever. Yeah, that's a great batch of people.
So we say happy birthday to them. These are my LinkedIn friends and some of my closest strangers as well. So want to say happy birthday to you guys too. And Jay says happy birthday to you too.
I do say happy birthday to each and every one of you.
Now
there's no overlap in that list. Is that intentional or accidental?
Oh, you have an eye for detail, my friend. No, when I see someone who's on both, I just typically leave them on Facebook, and then
guys, let me just tell you one thing: you're only going to get one birthday wish from Joe Jaffe. So let's stop asking to be on both slides. Thanks.
But I'll tell you what has happened. What I found, and it's been so like you. I'm sure you're probably at your 5,000 friend Facebook limit.
Yep.
So occasionally, by doing this every day, what I found is all the people that have two profiles. And so all I do then is I delete the one that is the least active.
Yeah.
And that allows me to let some people in on the waiting list. So this has been a helpful process, which is the ability for me to somewhat clean out. Exactly. So, all right. So your friend, my friend,
there he is.
He was born in 1960. And one of the things that I actually started yesterday, Jay, is to provide free advertising for any small business, entrepreneur, founder, consultant, freelancer. And Bob has become a real friend through the show. He's been ever present. He's helped me with the show. I'm still trying to work on my lighting. I now have 3 little weird lights that are lighting the green screen from the bottom. I'm still not sure it's helping. But Bob knows, as I said, a thing or two about about Zoom, about video, about production. And if you're screwing up royally right now, which probably you are, especially if you're a politician or a politician, even if they are operating out of their basement, what you need to do is call Bob and he will help you. So I just wanted to listen.
I completely agree. My highest endorsement, Bob, is one of my most loyal social media friends, a terrific man. And we were just talking a moment ago about this idea of innovation and invention, during pandemic. And this is a perfect example, right? Like, did people need to know how to look good on Zoom calls 2 months ago? Well, yeah, but not at scale, right? And now it's like a thing. And I just love that Bob is doing it. And I could not recommend his services more highly. In fact, I've got a client for you, Bob. I think I just talked to somebody last night who wants some help on that. So I will follow up with you.
CoronaTV is doing what it was meant to do. Jay, I started this specifically to help people that were at home, and also my fellow authors and speakers. No one is, or many of us are not being hired right now because they aren't in real world events, but they're still buying books, great books like Hug Your Haters.
Thank you.
And people like us still have an opportunity to inspire. So thank you for that wonderful endorsement. To people out there, and if you don't send in free advertising for someone for yourself, Bob Farnham's just going to get it every single day for free. So
it's going to be CoronaTV brought to you by Bob. Yeah, you got to
stop him.
Yeah,
prevent him. He just gave us a little bit of love.
I'm sure John Jantz knows a lot of people who would fit the bill.
Exactly, and John knows a thing or two about a thing or two. So
he knows a thing or two about a bunch of things you wouldn't expect, like Buddhism, guitar, mandolin, most recently, cooking, being a vegetarian. Like, John Jantz is an endlessly fascinating person. And a true gentleman.
I feel like we should do this, which is, hey John, you see that little URL at the bottom. If you click on that URL, you can come on the show and say hi to us in person.
Well, yeah,
right
the
now.
question I had was, how come Bob's not on the show as the sponsor to like do the live pitch for his services?
I mean, maybe we should start to do that. Don't do that, Bob. You will see him in. Sorry, you won't see Jay in the after show. So look, here's the thing: our little after show is growing right now, and so I'm here to tell you: do not come to the after show afterwards. You do not want to spend time with Jay Baer. Exactly. Thank you for telling people. You don't want to hear about Jay's 5 changes you need to be making to your social media approach right now, because, I mean, you're perfect, right? You're doing a great job. Everyone's doing a great job. Why would you need to hear from Jay Baer, right? Am I right? Exactly. Don't come.
I might not come because how much mezcal I drink now and then.
Did I do
I may not make it. It's been a long day.
Such a good sell or bad sell. So, Jay, I saw this, and I think you did too. This is New York Times and in association with Columbia University, and it kind of blew my mind, which is, if stay-at-home orders had been issued a week earlier, 1 week earlier, 36,000 fewer Americans would have died, and if they'd been issued 2 weeks earlier, 54,000 fewer people would have died. I mean, that is breathtaking, and
it is.
And rather than use this as a political platform, we do that in the Zoom after show. I know you had a different take on it, but for me, we think about leadership, and look, many of us are business people. I mean, we all have jobs or had jobs, so maybe we were leaders or are leaders. Leadership is about decisiveness. And to me, this demonstrates, if ever you wanted a demonstration of the importance of decisiveness, this is that demonstration. I know you had a different take, didn't you?
Well, just about communications cadence, right? That this idea that you could have said something, but you didn't want to say something because maybe you weren't totally sure. And so let's wait until we know this is the thing, because we don't want to be too early. I think that underscores the danger of that approach, right? Especially when you're dealing with public health, that if you see something, say something is a catchy slogan because it's true. And I think it bears itself out in those remarks. And one of the things I've been working on a lot lately is this idea of rewiring. I told you about this earlier, that businesses have to rewire their relationships with their customers. And one of the things about that is you have to re-educate your customers. Like, whatever your customers thought about you before, you've got to re-educate them because they don't know. I'll give you an example. This morning, I was grabbing a quick bite to eat, and I was like, okay, we're going to get dinner tomorrow night, and we're going to get takeout because we're going to go to the lake for the weekend. And there's a Mexican food place here in town that was open. So sad. They were for 10 days. They opened last week in February, open for 10 days and then closed. That was it. They were only open 10 days because of the virus, which really sucks, right? But God bless them. They stayed closed, not takeout or anything until kind of we got reopened here in Indiana, and they reopened on Saturday. But historically for 10 days, they never had carryout. And so now, apparently, according to their Instagram posts, they do have carryout. I went to their website, no carryout menu, no mention of carryout, no idea how to order carryout or buy online. And it's that kind of thing. Like, your customers have all of these questions now that previously were just not even worth asking, because of course you know the answer about how to order from a restaurant, but now you don't. We're doing this work with higher ed in my company around reentry and schools opening in the fall. And it's questions like this. When you go to your English class on the first day of school at university of whatever, do you all just go through the front door of the classroom, or do you go through the classroom 6 foot distanced? And if it's that, do you do it alphabetically? Like, you have to reteach people how to enter a classroom, right? And so communications and communication cadence and communication clarity will never be this important in our lifetimes.
I think that's a great point. And to bring it back to this idea of decisiveness, the thing, as you were talking, something that we're going through in my family, my youngest it goes to summer camp, sleepaway camp. And his camp is the only camp that is open. In fact, on the day that most of them said we're not opening, our camp said we're open, and they sent a long, detailed, lengthy email.
About why and how, and yeah.
And they spoke about a measles pandemic that I think epidemic or that broke out some years ago, and what had happened in the past, and all the steps they were taking. And I think that was a decisiveness. That was a decisive position in the affirmative, whereas most had taken a decisive position in the negative. And I thought to myself, well, on one hand, right, this is the thing about leadership, Jay. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Sometimes whatever decision you make, you're going to be criticized, certainly by one side versus the other. But I'm thinking to myself, for the camps that closed, can they now backtrack or stumble back into opening? And for the camp that stayed open, what happens if they need to close? Which is better, which is worse, or are they just both the same but different?
That's the calculus, right? Do you want to be optimistic and potentially wrong, or pessimistic and potentially put yourself out of business? That's a Scylla and Charybdis situation right there.
Oh, it's a beautiful soundbite that should find its way. Let me see, 6/26, Mark 26. Find that little bite, put it onto Instagram, and give it some love, because that was a beautiful quote. Sorry, that should have been my inside voice, but it was my outside voice because I'm in drinking. It's okay. Mitch said people.
There's no inside voice on the cocktail show. That doesn't exist.
I'm telling you, right?
Yeah.
So Mitch said people overcomplicate leadership, marketing, and life. Just do the right thing, and everything else will fall into place. Another brilliant statement. And before we go on, let me say,
yeah, but let me take it. Let me, as the co-host, let me take umbrage with that. And taking umbrage with an attorney is always at your own risk.
Are you umbraging with a viewer?
I am umbraging with a viewer and a noted influential attorney. Mitch is right from a overall standpoint, but I think the real challenge right now, and why everything is so hard today, is that what is the right thing? Yes, of course, do the right thing and things will fall into place, but what is the right thing? You could argue that the camp that Jaffe sent his kids to is insane in putting the health of kids and staffers at risk. You could also argue that the camps that are staying closed are insane because they're overplaying the virus and they threaten their own financial security as well as the sanity of all the parents who are expecting to send their kids to sleepaway camp. And so I think the real challenge we have right now is, setting aside politics, I don't think this part's political, is never in my life have I been in a scenario where the right thing was so difficult to define and to understand. Like, usually the right thing is like, yeah, that's the right thing, and that's the wrong thing. But now I'm not certain that's as true as it once was, and that's why it's so paralyzing for so many of us who feel deeply about Mitch's point that the right thing is the right path. But if you're not really certain what the right thing is, because you're basically flying blind in most cases, that causes a lot of angst, at least for me.
And look, my follow-up to that would be, in these moments of complete uncertainty and zero precedent, vulnerability is important. Honesty is important. And I think maybe there's a combination of do the right thing that you believe is the right thing, but also be honest about the fact that you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. And that's something that just corporations, I think, Jay, they're just continuing to struggle to be able to say, yeah, when they say we're in this together, we're all in this together, I don't think they're including themselves really. Or if they are, they're very guarded.
Well, and I just, I agree. And this notion of making declarations right now seems, I guess I'm glad some people have certainty, but I am paid to know answers, and I don't have any certainty. Notre Dame University, or University of Notre Dame, I think it is, UND, not too far from here, 3 hours up the road, 4 hours, just said on Friday they're opening August 10th. Kids are coming back. Game on, right? Major American university, well-regarded university. That is 4 days after the entire California State University system, which is the largest university system in America, 500,000 students said we're all virtual in the fall. somebody's wrong. You know what I mean? And it's just so crazy to me. I've never seen anything like that in my career, certainly in business, and even as a person on this planet, where you have just like manifestly different opinions using presumably the same data set and saying, nope, we fundamentally disagree. We're going to do it totally differently. It's like, wow, that's wild. The books that are going to be written about this, we already have great books. Rohit Bhargava's got a great book already on COVID, and Joe Polizzi's got a terrific book about marketing around COVID, and you're doing great work around this topic. There's already great stuff, but the case studies and things like that, a year from now, 2 years from now, are going to be amazing.
And both Rohit and Joe are coming on the show.
Oh, great. So they're both doing great work.
They will certainly promote that as they should. And that's also a certain kind of decisiveness, right? Speed to market, moving quickly. But you said something that I thought was really, really awesome. And it made me think of my two boys. My older son points a finger at my younger son and says, he did it. And then my younger son looks at my older son and goes, he did it. Clearly someone's lying.
Yeah.
And so like when you spoke about this idea of someone's wrong, it's so true. And maybe both sides are wrong. And maybe both sides are right. And so that's the line, we straddle. I mean, Martin said, isn't the right thing. Martin was my client at Coke and InBev. He wrote Zero with me. He said, isn't the right thing to do to err on the side of caution, specifically because we don't know. And now I'm going to take umbrage with Martin, because caution, what is caution, right? It makes me think of this idea of risk. Risk is relative. Bill Bernbach said, safe advertising is the riskiest advertising of all. Peter Drucker said, defending the past is far riskier than creating the future. Maybe the right thing to do is not to err on the side of caution, to throw caution to the wind, because maybe caution got us. I don't know. Again, how do I know I'm right?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly understand where Martin's coming from, right? That when you're dealing with public health, that anything other than the side of caution theoretically puts other people's health at risk. I think there's no question about that. And I think from that perspective, the point is well taken. But it's caution. It's not caution without consequence, right? That if you're cautious, there are significant downsides to that approach, financially, psychologically, ecologically, all your leads as well. And of course, that's the debate that we're all having. We don't need to relitigate the entire coronavirus scenario here on the show. We're supposed to be drinking cocktails, but I'm starting to think less about boy, it sucks to be in a pandemic. I kind of through that phase of grief and now into the wow, as a professional marketer and communicator and customer experience expert, seeing how different companies, even those in the same industry, are going about the same challenges exactly the opposite is something I don't know if I've ever seen. I mean, you've got, degrees of players in a space, from a marketing communication standpoint, how does Salesforce market versus HubSpot, right? That's interesting and different, but this is like the exact opposite. And I just never seen it before. I think it's fascinating.
Well, I tell you what, we will now move away from the seriousness, but I just want to kind of say, Martin, you say risk is relative until it costs lives, but what I want to say is, I think that there is another word, and I'm going to have the last word because Martin's not on the show and it's my show. So no, but I think prioritization. I think priorities have to trump, and I use that word intentionally or not intentionally, the idea of risk, right? Because risk is subjective. I think priorities maybe should be objective, but who knows? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move from the sublime to the ridiculous. And I saw this today, which I just wanted to share with you, Jay, and share with everyone, which is, Martin said, boo hiss. I love you, Martin, but just for people that are kind of taking notes right now, just to understand about 2020 and how it sucks ass, right? If there's a hashtag, it sucks ass. In May, we were at giant murder hornets. Yep. And here's the bad news, guys. In June, we're going to get underground crab people who are discovered. And guess what? They eat humans. And if you just think it can't get worse, just remember, guys, that February 2021, the Cleveland Browns are going to win the Super Bowl. So, you know, something to look forward to if you live in Cleveland. But other than that,
could happen.
I mean, Avengers 5 could also come out in 2021. So
it's true.
So, you know, so enough of that. I'm going to fill up my glass. Mr. Jay Baer, I have to ask you a very serious question because it's such a serious conversation. How do you hug your haters in a global pandemic?
Oh, it's more important than ever. It's more important than ever. I mean, you have to understand, and I talked about this in the book, you don't know what's actually going on in the mind or the life of your customer. We read a tweet, we read an email, we listen to a brief complaint via phone, we read a Google review, and we take that 30 words and we create a narrative around that customer, their life, and their experiences. It's human nature. I do it too. Every time somebody leaves an Amazon review on one of my books, I do the exact same thing. It's human nature. But the reality is you don't know shit about that person's life, their circumstances, what their mindset was when they experienced your product or service. You don't know anything. So now, right now, when the whole world is in flames, metaphorically, you've got to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And not just once, I mean twice. If somebody yells at you, sorry you're having a bad day. I've been having bad days too. How can we help you? Right? This is the time when humanity, compassion, kindness, and empathy will have a material impact on your business. I'll say it this way, and I've said this on a couple other shows over the last month or so, and I really believe this. This isn't just sloganeering. I believe for a lot of organizations, how they handle themselves and their customers and their business as we reopen in this time of uncertainty, how you handle your customers over the next 5 weeks will have a significant impact on your success over the next 5 years. And I really believe that to be true. And that has to be rooted in empathy. I don't care if your customer is off the rails. This is not the time to push back. That's all.
I just want to tell Angus that I'm drinking Glenrothes 1995 because he wanted to know.
Wasn't Angus's birthday recently? I thought perhaps that was.
What it was. And I wished him happy birthday. Now, here's the thing. This is going to respond beautifully to what you just said, Jay. Today, out of nowhere, on LinkedIn, I got some guy who clearly we were connected, and he basically said, "So what I do every day, I wish people at home on Facebook and LinkedIn a happy birthday." And I cut and paste because there are a lot of people, and I just say, "Hey, you got a shout out today on CoronaTV." Today, Jay Baer and I discussed how you can hug your haters, even in a global pandemic. Nobody should celebrate their birthday at home, so this one's for you. And then I'll put a link to the show. He responds this morning by going, "If there isn't a shout out today, I'm going to report you." Like as if I was spamming him. And I thought to myself, I wanted to basically immediately just unfollow him or unfriend him. And then swear at him. And then I was like, no, actually, you did get a shout out. And then he said, what was the timestamp? I think I ignored the timestamp. I think I ignored the timestamp. But what I did do is I pasted the actual slide with his name, and he said, awesome. And it's exactly the point.
The hug your haters approach is a jiu-jitsu approach, right? So you use their body weight against them. So what I would have done is I would have made him the sponsor the next day, just regardless. Like, yep.
No, he's definitely getting unfollowed. I'm just telling you.
No. Now you're gonna make him the sponsor. Now you're making the co-host. Yeah, you know the more upset they are, the nicer you are. That's the hug the hater system, right? So you know the mirroring tactic in sales. If somebody talks very slowly, you talk very slowly. If they like skiing, you like skiing. Hug your haters is that, but in a fun house, right? So if the customer's mad, you're super, super nice, right? And so you basically flip the script on them and it disarms them, and it's actually very effective.
You know, first of all, I just want to, I've been trying to find the right time just to shout out to Dana Bent. Dana, you are now the first official LinkedIn comment. So I guess it came in. So now I'm getting comments from LinkedIn, from Facebook, from
Had to break the
YouTube,
seal. Yeah.
from yeah, I'm about to break the seal for real. You know, from and there's Joe Delagrave. So Joe is a bronze medal Paralympian, and maybe one of my favorite interviews, besides obviously Jay. And just the nicest guy in the whole world. But he's now sad. See, he's hating on me that we weren't drinking while we were talking. So,
well, was he on an evening show or like a noon show?
No, he was on a noon show. You can't drink it too.
Joe has a drinking problem, is what we've discovered in the last 10 seconds.
I mean, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So, you know what I realized is I created CoronaTV during this pandemic, and I'd let my content creation slip. I wasn't blogging regularly. I was barely podcasting. I just hadn't found my voice.
Yeah.
And now, boy, oh boy, have I found it. I'm sure some people would be wishing that I'd left it wherever I left it. But the reason why I bring this up is I've never actually had you on my show, and you've been very gracious and kind and had me on your show, and you've promoted all my books, and so now it's great to return the favor. But
it's kind of
I got to tell you something, Jay. We are really simpatico in terms of our thinking. Your book, Utility. You know, when I wrote Life After the 30-Second Spot, I remember saying from ROI to RUE, which is relevance, utility, entertainment. And you wrote an entire book on something that was, I might have been a throwaway statement, but you wrote something so seminal to business. Forget about marketing, business. But this idea of hug your haters, something else that I'd said before, which is, I once wrote a blog post and I said, embrace hate. And what I meant by that, obviously I qualified it, which is I used the example of Crocs, the most butt ugly shoe ever created, bar none. It's not even a debate. But ultimately, we have to get people to care, to feel something. Indifference, apathy is the thing that will kill us all.
Yep.
And the way I always say it is when somebody says you suck and I hate you, they're basically just saying I love you. I just want you to work a little bit harder to earn that love. And so the way that you have this incredible knack for being able to find this insight and then bring it to life and tell stories. And the stories you tell in your books are incredible.
Thanks.
The anecdotes. And you go from the biggest of the big to the smallest of the small. Some of your stories are so esoteric, but those are the memorable ones.
Thanks. Well, and I actually do that really intentionally. When I write a book, I actually create a grid. And it's almost like bingo, right? So I say, okay, for each of the key points in the books, the most recent one, Talk Triggers, about the power of word of mouth, which I wrote with Daniel Lemon. We said, all right, we have 5 types of talk triggers, right? So you got 5 points we got to cover. For each of those points, we want a small business example and a bigger business example. We want a B2B example and a B2C example. We want an American example and a global example. So literally you create a grid, right? And you don't write the book until you've got a story for each of those boxes. That's literally how I do it. Because what I want more than anything in the world is for everybody who reads the book or to listen to a speech to say, I don't see myself in all of these stories, but I see myself in some of the stories. If you see yourself in enough stories to put it into practice, then that's what I'm really trying to do. Like, yeah, I want you to buy a book, and thank you for the kind words. I want everybody to buy books, but I don't write books to sell books, right? I write books to help people improve their business and therefore the lives of them and their family. As my good friend Rory Vaden says, a speech, and I'll use it as a book in this instance, a speech is nothing but an advertisement for what's possible. And I think the same is true about a book. A book is not the end. A book is a means to an end. So all I care about is that people take the advice and put it into action. When we talk about utility in particular, and hug your haters and talk triggers, the one thing that I'm gratified about in my career is that those 3 books, the last 3 books I've written in particular, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people have actually taken those lessons and put them into practice, right? Utility is used by a lot of marketing organizations as sort of their lingua franca. Hug your haters is used by tons of customer service organizations as kind of their fundamental approach. And talk triggers is used by tons of organizations to actually have a word of mouth strategy, God forbid. And so that part is working. And that, if anything, that's what I like best about what I do, is that people actually do it, right? I mean, enjoying the book is one thing, but putting it into practice is really what I'm trying shoot for. So I don't have any ideas. Like, I'm not a futurist. I'm not a smart guy like you. I'm not a smart guy like Rohit. I don't see around corners. I'm only good at one thing, which is to see patterns and then take a complicated idea and explain it in a way that a lot of people can understand it. I'm a translator. I'm not a futurist. I'm a translator, and that's the one thing I'm good at.
I see. I just stubbed my knee on my on my glass desk. It's the blood is the blood is only marginal at the moment. But you know what? You're very humble, and I think I see patterns as well. I mean, on you, I can see a pattern on your jacket right now.
Always.
But I think the it's important to emphasize the grid idea, you know, that Haiti mentioned as well. And by the way, it is almost 1 a.m. in the morning in South Africa, because Haiti's in South Africa. So she stayed up to have a cocktail and watch you, Jay, because she's
on her 9th drink, which I appreciate. Way to hang in there.
She's clearly not doing it for me. But the thing about it is that, you know, you are too humble, because the grid idea is the discipline and the rigor that you don't see. It's the sausage factory that you don't see. And when you read the book just flows. It is like liquid gold in a sense. But it's the diversity. You know, telling stories doesn't work if those stories are predictable and if they're monotonous and if they're one-sided. And when you create that beautiful tapestry, that colorful tapestry, as you do, Jay, those are the kinds of memorable ideas that live on. So
I have a rule that I won't put in a book a story that I've ever read or heard about anywhere else in any circumstance. It's just a personal objection. That's why when Mitch and I both came out with our books a few years ago at approximately the same time, I had Utility and he had Control Alt Delete, which has a section about utility marketing, as it turns out. We both used the Taylor guitars example, and it like crushed me. I'm like, God, we both had the same case study, and it like, I felt like it was a diminishment of my spirit. So you can't avoid it, because people come up with things that they're in the zeitgeist, and people come up with things at the same time. And but I really work hard to find stories that people don't know. And I'll tell you one of the reasons I'm able to do that. Another little secret. I think Mitch knows this, and I think John does too. I think we've talked about it on his podcast. Unlike a lot of people, I don't write a book until I've done the speech of that book 50 times. So I'll write a speech, I'll deliver that speech 50 times, and then if it's going well, I'll write a book about it, right? So for most people, it's book and speech. For me, it's speech, collect all the stories, polish all the stories, figure out the narrative arc of what I'm trying to say, and then I just take the speech and expand it, and it becomes a book. And so it's the opposite of how most people work. And for me, it's I just like that approach a lot better. I think the stories are more polished, and it just, as you said, the books tend to flow better a little bit like that. For me, I didn't do that in my very first book, and after that, I changed the approach.
I do the exact opposite, and I'm actually fascinated that that's your process and your approach. But what I don't do is my presentations are not a mirror of the book. In fact, they're almost like an update of the book. Mm-hmm. So I end up new ideas, new thoughts, new riffs. And you know what one of the most interesting examples is the marketing bow tie that I have to credit Jeremiah Ouyang. Yeah, he didn't. I kind of threw it in at the end, which was the flip funnel and the traditional funnel together. And Jeremiah was like, dude, that is like insane. Like, and I was like, oh, I just put that together like 5 minutes before the book went to print. And then I realized, wait a second, I need to develop this concept, but the book had gone to print. And so I was able to share that in the presentations. But I love your approach that you actually present and then you write the book on it.
And then what happens is, once the book's out, then more people are exposed to it. And then I always, in every book, say, hey, send me your stories. So in Talk Triggers, for example, Daniel and I had, I think 23 case studies of some sort in the book, right? And now he and I have a database, plus we have a Facebook group of readers, which now has, I think we have 4,000 members in that Facebook group or something, of just people who not only read the book, but want to be in the group. And they're always coming up with ideas. So I think our database now is well over 120 talk triggers word of mouth ideas. And so when I go give a different speech, I'm like, okay, these guys are healthcare, mid-sized, global, triangulate, pull out the best stories. It's really, really useful from that perspective.
So we were going to talk about customer experience, and we kind of did. And I had some slides that I was going to share. Your slides, I had your repackage, reprice, rehire, retrain, reintroduce, reeducate, which is another thing you do brilliantly, the R's and the Re's. And, I remember sitting in the audience. I always love being treated to a Jay Baer masterclass, whether it was at Brand Manage Camp or, at the James Franco event. See, I'm not mentioning whose event it was. But we are going to head to, we're not going to head to the after show right now. Yeah, so if you don't want to come, then please don't come. But Jay, the plaid
in the after show, we'll see what happens there.
I mean, we may as well I may as well down the rest of it. Jay, how do people find you? Because you're difficult to find.
I am difficult to find. Yeah, that's for sure. Best place is convinceandconvert.com. And I say that because, yes.
Hold on, I said Jay Baer there. Let me fix that.
That's quite all right. The reason I say that is, I'm involved in a lot of things, but it's by no means just me. We have an entire team of extraordinary people who not only are creating marketing and customer experience solutions for many of the world's most iconic brands. We are so blessed to work with the clients that we work with. But my team are also the folks that are really making it possible to do the number of podcasts and videos and webinars and other things and books and speeches that I'm involved in. So each and every one of them is an absolute treasure and part of the family. So convinceandconvert.com, we have more than 3,000 articles for business owners, marketers, communicators, customer experience professionals. And of course, on that site, you can find all of our podcasts and ebooks and downloads and webinars. The jaybaer.com site is my personal site for speaking and things along those lines. Obviously, we'd be delighted to have you there as well. And if you want to listen to the podcast, 2 shows, Social Pros, which is all about social media, now 423 episodes, and Sand Innovation, which is all about the story of stories that speakers tell on stage. It's a really fun show, super intimate about public speaking.
I mean, you're doing so much. It's unbelievable how much you're doing and how deep and how wide your tentacles reach, Mr. Jay Baer. I'm looking forward to coming on your show again if you'll have me.
Yeah, for sure. Love to. We'll make it happen.
But I think
you get John back on the show too.
I think I might have to have you back here as well, so that we can actually get to talk about customer experience. But I feel like we kind of did, right? We did discuss. Bob says it seems like Convince and Convert is a well-oiled machine. Well, Jay Baer is a well-oiled machine.
Thank you, Bob. It's not quite as well-oiled as we make it appear, but they are a really good squad, for sure. I'm blessed. I'm blessed in a lot of ways, but most of all with my team and my friends.
Well, Jay, I'm humbled by your presence and your friendship, and let's head over to the Zoom room. I am gonna head out there myself. It's a long walk. It's a huge commute, but I will be there waiting for you, and so will Jay. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I know it got a little bit serious, but it's important sometimes to discuss the stuff and be able to discuss the stuff. And I appreciate you guys, and remember that I'm here for you, and I will continue to be here for you through thick and thin, and we will get through this together. Take care, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with Mr. Brian Solis. Take care, everyone. Bye.